Hey, we're about to start the show, and you know the drill. If you've been here before and you have something important to share, please add a capital letter Q to your comment. And if you are watching live for the first time, please let us know by writing the word new, and we'll give you a nice little welcome. Enjoy the broadcast. Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Coffee and Headlines, our morning get-together live here on Facebook, where we take a look at news from our city, state, and country. We take a look at your comments, ideas, and suggestions. We combine all this information, put it to good use. As a community of English-speaking locals living here in Puerto Vallarta, today is Thursday, February 15. I hope you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday and this morning. It is a pleasure to get together with you as always. I started my morning with a giggle because I sat down to get ready for everything. And of course, I am close to the front window, and it was so funny because two large chachalacas decided to set up shop on the trees across the street, and they were loud, oh so loud. So all the dogs in the building were barking at them. It was just fun. Chachalacas, well, if you've heard a chachalaca before, they are loud birds. Harmless birds, but they are very loud. Anyhow, today we have all kinds of news to share. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. De chile, mole, y pozole. But we have an interesting question, one that we should never get tired of answering, although it gets old. Is Puerto Vallarta safe? We'll dive into this interesting topic. I received an article that a viewer sent to me, and we're going to react to that article and give it some perspective, because I think we need to have some perspective on these issues. You know the drill, so let's get started. First of all, I just want to briefly confirm the news that I shared yesterday. In yesterday's City Council session, Mayor Michel's leave of absence to pursue re-election, along with 10 additional leaves of council members, was approved by unanimity. And whereas a name was circulated for the interim mayor, this morning I learned that there will be a meeting on February 27 to determine who will become Puerto Vallarta's interim mayor. And I have good news. Jalisco's Secretary of Tourism, Vanessa Perez Lamas, has announced that the new Boca de Tomatlan pier will be ready in less than a month. We also learned that upgrades in the Quimixto and Yelapa piers is in progress, and all of this, of course, is part of the state's Maritime Connectivity Improvement Program that was announced sometime last year. And now, not so good news. Once again, a local accident has brought to light that Puerto Vallarta does not have enough municipal ambulances. This time around, a senior man had to lie down on the pavement for half an hour while he waited for an ambulance to arrive, and it never did. It was the firefighters who ended up responding to the call. Now, to clarify, when I say there are not enough ambulances, I mean there are not enough city ambulances. There are plenty of privately owned ambulances, but of course, you'll have to pay an arm and a leg to have one of those pick you up. So, this particular news outlet is wondering why this is the case, implying that Mayor Michel may be not investing in municipal ambulances just to allow for private companies to do their business. Unfortunately, this is one in which there is very little we can do. Nobody wants to need an accident. Well, nobody wants to need an accident. Nobody wants to need an ambulance. But uh, it happens. Sometimes you need an ambulance, and I don't know the exact procedure for requesting one. I know that you make a phone call to the emergency number, but what happens as to whether the city asks you to wait for a city ambulance or pay for a private one, I don't know how it works. All I know is that there are not enough municipal ambulances in the city. There are plenty of private ones. Now, let's turn over to the weather before we continue with other interesting topics. Our snarky weatherman this morning says, oh dear, calm down, everyone. I already have my own nuclear weapons in space. This has something to do with some news that were circulated yesterday about things that are going on north of the border that we're not going to get into. What we're going to get into right now is our local forecast. It is 22 degrees out there right now. Humidity is high at 81%. And our weather forecast for today says we're going to enjoy overcast skies throughout the day with a high of 25 and a low of 18. Then tomorrow, Friday, light rain throughout the day with a high of 23 and a low of 18. A chance of rain of 98%. So we can pretty much count on that, I suppose. And then on Saturday, mostly clear skies throughout the day with a high of 24 and a low of 16, and a chance of rain of only 15%. So apparently, if it's going to rain, it'll happen between today and tomorrow. Now, let me first of all get rid of the weather. And I want to lead the second half of the broadcast with this. How safe is Puerto Vallarta? How many times a week or a month do you find yourself having to answer this question? I tell you, if I had 10 pesos for every time I have to answer it, we would have a bigger, fancier studio than my living room, that's for sure. Why are we talking about this today? Well, a viewer, somebody that I know, sent me an article that we're going to unpack. This viewer was concerned about the accuracy of the article and the negative slant on the article. And I know how we get as human beings. We love to defend things and places and people that are dear to us. If somebody says something negative about something or someone or some place that is important to us, we are very quick to defend whatever is mentioned. And of course, we get passionate about defending our city. But how safe is the city? Well, let us start by taking a look at this article, and we're going to do this just to make sure that we don't get worked up about these things in vain. Let me put it up on the screen. Where is here we go. Is this working? Yes, it is. Okay, so this is an article that was apparently published in a website called Mother Earth Travel, which is clearly invested in safety because look at this. If I do a quick search, Caribbean, all the articles are called something safety, at least in the Caribbean. I love it. And this article is written by a lady by the name of Susan Laurent. And she says at the bottom on her byline that she is, where is it? Passionate about world cultures, travel, and discovering amazing new places. She spent years traveling the globe, very often alone. So she focuses on providing information about travel safety to travelers that she's gathered from first-hand experience. So brace yourselves because we're going to have some fun looking at this article. And I'm already looking at some of your comments. Um, but again, the first thing that I went looking for is the website. And again, if I look at some of their latest articles, they all have to do with safety. They all have the word safe or safety in the titles. So, whereas I know that this is an important concern, when I see that all the articles on your website include in the title the word safe or safety, I'm inclined to think it's clickbait. But let's see what this lady has to say about our city. Um, second paragraph says Puerto Vallarta sits on the shores of Mexico Pacific coast in the state of Jalisco, which according to the US government is a state you need to reconsider visiting. Ouch. Okay, so she breaks it down. She first puts a bunch of essential Puerto Vallarta travel resources. Um, and I looked at some of the links and I don't know about some of these links. But then she gets into unveiling the reality, a comprehensive look at Puerto Vallarta crime rates, and she starts with a statement that I don't understand. Maybe you can explain it to me. She starts by saying Puerto Vallarta has a crime index of 35.23% out of 120%. So uh, I don't understand that statement. Why 35.23% out of 120%? And she references a website called Numbeo, and I don't know who is behind this website. Apparently, it has to do with crime and cost of living and so forth and so on. So, but it's interesting. At the top of this website, it says that the level of crime in Puerto Vallarta is low at 38.64. So there you have it. And later on, the article says safety in Puerto Vallarta, safety walking alone during daylight is at 86.88% or very high. So I don't get it. And I'm loving all your comments are already trickling in. Moving right along, she references a 2011 crime report. 2011, and the report reveals that Puerto Vallarta suffered 29 homicides, 42 rape incidents, 100, and so forth and so on. It's uh, it's over 10 years old. So is it credible to believe? Is it wise to believe an article that references statistics that are over 10 years old? You tell me. I personally don't believe a lot of these things. Not the credibility of 10 years ago. Is there crime here? Of course there's crime here. Are there burglaries and assaults and robberies and auto thefts? Of course there are, like any other city. Um, then she says in Puerto Vallarta, people have mysteriously vanished without a trace. This is true, but it's true of many places in the world. The worst part is that people can get kidnapped even in the most public places possible. Well, this happens everywhere. Then it references a couple of important kidnappings, which actually happened. One in 2020 and another one in 2022. So she's not lying. Um, then she says, becoming a cartel member often happens against a person's will. I wonder where that came from. Um, then she talks about the high profile murder or assassination of the former Jalisco governor that happened 3, 4 years ago. And she talks about counterfeit medication. I love it. I'm sure there's counterfeit medication here, and I'm sure there's counterfeit medication elsewhere. Then she gets into COVID and cases and so forth and so on. Perils of nature, the risk of natural disasters in Puerto Vallarta, with a photo of that building that looks more tilted than it is. Uh, and she says Puerto Vallarta seems to be on the radar for all kinds of disturbances. All kinds of disturbances. Good Lord. Um, and what else do we have? Mexico is situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a region recognized for its tectonic activity. Fortunately, there are no big earthquakes with destructive potential in Puerto Vallarta. Let's see. Breathing safely in Puerto Vallarta, carbon monoxide awareness and prevention. Seriously? And she goes for paragraphs on the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. And then on the fifth paragraph, she says Puerto Vallarta hasn't suffered any cases of CO poisoning. But there have been 3 deaths in Mexico City. So if there are no cases here, why are they mentioned? Don't get me started. And then let's see, weather patterns, what to expect. She talks about the weather, an overview about the weather. When is the best time to visit Puerto Vallarta? And she says, so in terms of safety, there's no suitable time to visit Puerto Vallarta. Oh my God, everybody pack your bags and go somewhere else. And then this is a section that made the viewer that sent me the article really upset, or somewhat upset, or upset enough to write this author. Exploring Puerto Vallarta solo or with a family, is it a good idea? With all the cartel activities, kidnappings, and homicides and robberies around Puerto Vallarta, visiting the city alone or with your family is not a good idea. Bam! Tómala. And then she includes tips. Oh my goodness, stay in your hotel as much as possible for the benefit of your family's protection. Renting a car is safer and more dependable than constantly calling a taxi. You should drink, not drive. You should not drink and drive. Sorry. Good Lord, good Lord. Conclusion. This concludes our carefully crafted guide on Puerto Vallarta safety for 2023. Fingers crossed that this beautiful destination will be safe to visit soon. Please heed to the U.S. government's travel advisory until then, and think twice before visiting this location! ! It's just not worth the danger with all the cartel violence and crime currently happening there. I've had enough of this, and I'm sure you have too. You know, here's the thing, and we talk about this on a fairly frequent basis. Choose your sources carefully. I mean, the first thing that I do when I look at something like that is who is talking about this, number one. And number two, who is the target audience? Clearly, this website is targeting viewers in the United States, where, if you don't mind my saying so, there seems to be a current excess of chaos in news, in politics, in media, in decision-making people, or people that want to be decision makers, that thrive on chaos to keep people alarmed, to keep people reading and watching and being worried all the time. We don't have any control over that. So the only control we have is choosing what we get upset about or not upset about. I'm actually grateful that this article was sent to me, because it really gives us a sense of perspective of people that choose to live their lives in fear and people that choose not to do so. So, yes, it is true that there is cartel and violence and robbery and theft and death and hurricanes and tornadoes and plagues and all kinds of stuff. The question is, do we let these bits of information dictate our everyday life, yes or no? And that's a personal choice. And I choose to embrace my city, and I choose to live my city comfortably, safely, exercising the common sense that any adult should exercise. Although sometimes I go out and I get tipsy. Who doesn't? And sometimes I make a bad decision. Who doesn't? And sometimes I eat out at a street vendor, and sometimes my stomach gets to uh, deal with the consequences. But do I choose to get all worked up about things like this? No. The only good thing I see in this article is that it'll filter out some people that are fearful, that should indeed stay at home and not visit, because these are tourists that we don't want here. If you are too scared, if you're wondering whether it's safe, yes, stay at home. But for the rest of us, are we going to live our lives based on articles like this? No fucking way. And I look forward to your comments. But first, let us take a couple of looks at a couple of other things. Thank you. I got a little loud there, but I needed to get that out of my system. My new friend and candle making teacher, Isamar, has announced her next candle making workshop to take place on Friday, March 1st at her family's jewelry shop in Colonia Emiliano Zapata. I reported a few days ago that Lars and I had a blast learning how to make soy wax candles. And I totally recommend the course for anyone. It helps if you know Spanish, but you don't have to know Spanish, but you may want to let the instructor know that you're not Spanish fluent. I will leave you with her Facebook page so that you can learn more about this. If you enjoy reading and are invested in learning more about Mexico, you may appreciate this list of Mexican classic novels published by Mexico News Daily. It is a nice list of novels that are translated to English if you don't read Spanish, and it starts with a wonderful Pedro Páramo by Juan Rulfo. If you need one reason to go ahead and read this novel, it is that it is going to become a series on Netflix. And there are other excellent choices like Water for Chocolate, as always. I will leave this link in the show notes for you to pursue. And then I have this one. According to this article published by México Desconocido, Mexico City, with over 200 museums, is the second city in the world with most museums. London is in the first place, and Paris is in the third. Of course, if you're prone to believing alarmist articles like the one we just unpacked, there's just not enough medication in the world for you to feel at ease planning a trip to Mexico City. And that needs a badam boom or two. Of course, for the rest of us, Mexico City is an amazing city to visit and explore. And particularly during Semana Santa, which is coming up, because a lot of its residents skip town to come to beach town places like Puerto Vallarta, although it may not be safe for them to travel. Boom, boom. And last but not least, I want to give you an update on my adventure from yesterday, going to pursue my senior citizens discount card. It's a good thing that I was expecting it not to happen, because that's the way Mexican bureaucratic processes are. We had no expectations, and when I say we, I mean myself and my three foreign friends who have their residency here in Mexico, because of course we read that the cards, the senior discount cards, are available for foreign residents as well. Why do we want the cards? Well, you get discounts here, there, and everywhere. But most importantly, I love my discount on the bus. Anyhow, we get there with all the paperwork that was required according to the official website from the Ministry of Government, and which you'd think is, powerful enough. And one of the requisites is to show up with black and white photos. So we get there and with black and white photos, but no, the photos have to be in color. And then we also learn that there are no cards being issued for foreigners right now. Okay, I know some of you are going to write, but we heard that in Ajijic there was a big to-do and they issued cards for foreigners. Well, that kind of information is true, but it means nothing. Once you get to these places, once the little or not so little person that takes care of you says, no, you cannot do it, there's nothing you can do. And I said to her, well, wait a second. I looked at the official website, and the official website said that I needed black and white photos. And she says, well, that's not our website. That's the government website. We have a different website, and we have a different we're part of a different ministry, the Ministry of Well-Being, and the website has not been updated. Long story short, I couldn't get my card. No big deal. I need a couple of extra papers and color photographs. B, and this is most important to my foreign friends, you cannot get an official senior card for discounts right now. You can give it a go with whatever ID you have that proves that you are 60 or older, and whether you're at the movie theater or at the bus terminal, they may take your ID as one that makes you eligible for that, or they may not. And the bottom line is, according to this lovely lady that waited on me yesterday, you cannot have an INAPAM card right now, or a senior citizens card. And oh, what a great comment. Oh my goodness. Love it when you light up stupidity. Well, I'm not going to call anybody stupid, Nick. I'm simply going to say that we have choices to make. We have choices to make. And those choices have a lot to do with our well-being, talking about well-being. But let me rewind the tape very quickly to see if we have any interesting reactions to that article. I see all your good mornings, which is wonderful. Oh, it's raining. Well, I went outside to look at the chachalacas earlier, but it was not raining. Glad to know that it's raining now. We got a drizzle yesterday afternoon when we were going to try to get the INAPAM cards. The nice thing about getting the INAPAM cards, or trying to, is that this is placed near the Aramara market, and we ended up getting lovely tacos across the street. Boom, 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 boom. I've been feeling weekend vibes since yesterday. Maybe it's the weather, says Muffin. I hear you. I'm ready for the weekend. Da, 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 da. Lots of good mornings. Looking for cues. Wow, can't be a good look for PV with people lying in the street with no hope for or help for an ambulance. That's going to scare tourists. Susan, I'm going to tell you something. If it scares a few, so be it. But only a few. Of course, this particular accident happened in a colonia that is out in the middle of nowhere. Heaven forbid that a foreign tourist should be walking along the Malecon, and should this happen in the Malecon to a foreign tourist. I am sure the city would just rush to the tourist's rescue because it happened on the Malecon. Let us hope that it doesn't happen, but here's one cue from Dan. Scaring people makes people click on the articles and increases the amount of money the writers receive. Oh, I'm very well of that. very well aware of that, which is why I will not include the article in the show notes. We put things on the show notes that I think are worthy of your time and attention. This one, nah. Let's see what else. Ooh, lengthy comments. Lengthy comments about safety. My husband, this is not about safety. My husband and I had the pleasure of visiting Whiskey Kitchen and meeting Gina. Thank you, Paco, for promoting this great business and bringing it to everyone's attention. We love the food and the great vibe of the place. We will definitely return again. Congrats, Gina. This is what Gina does. Let's see. Christine says, I think it's a typo out of 120 countries, maybe. Of course, I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but there it is. Patrick has a Q. Safest city in Mexico. I often see retired ladies walking dogs by themselves after 11 p.m. many times. Where in the U.S. can you do that? Well, I'll be first to say, Patrick, that there are parts in this city in which I would not feel safe walking my dog late at night. But I think that happens in any city. Is Puerto Vallarta the safest city in Mexico? I don't have enough data to say that. But there is data out there available. But again, it boils down to our choices. If I choose to walk my dog, sorry, Luna, we don't have dogs here. But if I chose to walk my dog in the middle of nowhere, late at night, at my age, in a questionable neighborhood, I'm sure something would happen to me. But would that be the destination's fault? Hell no. That would be my own stupidity. Let's see what else we see. Good point. Let's not visit Puerto Vallarta in 2011. Definitely, let's not go there. Kathy here. Follow the money. If you can convince Americans that Mexico isn't safe, then they will spend their tourist dollars in the USA, not in Mexico. Again, so be it. We are blessed with so many visitors as it is, that if a few paranoid ones decide to stay in the United States, bye. Just stay there. We don't need you. Nick says, total fear-mongering, quite sad. Again, it's sad for the people that decide to run their lives on that criteria. Not sad for me. Let's all see. Bubble suits. We all need bubble suits. I love it. I would look so fucking sexy in a bubble suit. Well, I might sweat a little and lose some weight, so maybe that's something I should do. There's a cue here. Please don't share the link to that safety article in the show notes. We don't need to give her any more hits on her website. Oh, trust me, we're not gonna bother. This website screams that it was created using ChatGPT, says Larcito, and as you say, created with a lot of clickbait terms. Again, not for me. I totally agree with you, Lars. I can see I've ruffled your feathers. According to that site, I need to move away. Wait, I don't have any kids, so I'll be fine. Oh, that is funny. That is funny. Again, what is not funny is that, and it is mindful, it's important to be mindful of these things, is that, yes, there are problems in Puerto Vallarta, and we talk about them frequently here at Coffee and Headlines. But we just don't let our lives become so fearful that And the problems in our city are no worse than any other city of this size. So I don't understand this, but I'm intrigued. Caucasity? Does that have something to do with Caucasians? Caucasity. Or is that a play on the audacity? I'm not entirely understanding that comment, but I am totally intrigued by it. Let's see. I can see you guys are having fun with this. I'm having fun with this, and it's already 11:06. Wow. Let's see what else we have. Do 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 do. Hey, says Maggie, I was catching up on last week's shows. I went on the shopping trip to De La Cruz with Loca that you talked about last week. Sylvie was all excited that I mentioned the group. Well, yes, Maggie, I received a lovely note from her, from Sylvie, and thanking me for the mention. And I wrote her back and I said, girl, you had a great idea. And I hope you had a blast, Maggie. I don't know if I have the body parts, but I would love to take the Panga to La Cruz and do some shopping. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm glad you had a good time, or I hope you had a good time. Let's see. Ooh, snarky. I am surprised that the article didn't also say that Puerto Vallarta has an overabundance of gays. Now, that is really frightening. All the homos wandering around. Well, some homos are frightening, let me tell you. It takes a homo to say that. But, oh God, you guys are so funny. Lots of comments on this issue. Eva, who's clearly not here, says we look forward to visiting Mexico someday soon. Hey, the water is fine. And if you're ready to come to Mexico, or if you're ready to come to Puerto Vallarta, Eva, keep watching Coffee and Headlines. We'll be so glad to hold your hand. Let's see. Purim pam 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 pam. Lots of cues today. Mark says, I have a feeling that they would consider Mayberry dangerous. I don't know what Mayberry is, whether it's a city or a plant, or maybe it's a dish that I haven't tried. I don't understand that. Anyhow, this brings us to the end of this slightly interesting Coffee and Headlines. I hope you've had a good time as always. Again, choose wisely. Choose not to get worked up by some things that get published. Choose not to get worked up by some things you read on Facebook that are not published with credible sources. Choose to take small changes and small risks in your regular level of comfort. Choose to have your hand held by someone that is more courageous than you, and choose to take small steps in that direction. That's what I do. And it served me very well. My wish for each and every person that is watching this is don't be dominated by fear mongering. And if you are, hey, stay wherever you are. We'll enjoy the excitement of discovery for you gladly. That's it. Thank you very much for sharing this broadcast with me, and for sharing all your very wonderful comments. And as Nick says, choose tequila. I love that as a parting thought. Thank you very much. I'll see you again soon.